There is an $8 fix sitting on the shelf of every auto parts store in the country. It takes less than 5 minutes. It is the difference between your Sierra riding smooth at 70 miles per hour and shaking so badly you think the whole drivetrain is coming apart. If your truck has been vibrating at highway speed, that fast rhythmic shudder that feels like you are driving over rumble strips, your dealer probably told you it was normal. It is not normal. It is a component inside your transmission destroying itself a little more every single day. This video reveals exactly what it is, how to test for it at home, and how to fix it for $8. Welcome to We Are Auto Nerds. Subscribe and hit the bell now. Here is what is happening inside your transmission right now. Your truck has a torque converter. It sits between the engine and the transmission, and its job is to transfer power from one to the other using transmission fluid. Inside that converter, there is a clutch. When you are cruising at highway speed, that clutch locks the engine directly to the transmission, so there is no slippage, no wasted energy. It is how your truck gets decent fuel economy at 70 miles per hour. When that clutch works correctly, you never know it exists. When it fails, your entire truck shakes like it is falling apart. Here is why it fails. GM designed the 8-speed transmission in your Sierra, the 8L90, to lock that clutch earlier and harder than almost any truck transmission before it. We are not talking about the old-school systems that locked at 55 miles per hour in top gear. Your 8L90 starts engaging that clutch as low as second gear at 10 to 15 miles per hour. And it does not fully lock. It holds a controlled micro-slip of 20 to 50 RPM. That might sound like smart engineering, and it is if the clutch material and the fluid can handle it. They cannot. The clutch lining inside your torque converter is roughly 20 thousandths of an inch thick. That is thinner than 5 sheets of printer paper stacked together. And GM is asking that tiny sliver of friction material to engage and slip thousands of times per drive, every single drive for the life of the truck. Transmission specialists who rebuild these units daily say the lining is woefully inadequate for the job GM designed it to do. But the clutch is only half the problem. The other half is the fluid. The original factory transmission fluid GM put in your truck is hygroscopic. That means it absorbs moisture straight out of the air through your transmission vent tube. Every time you drive, every time your transmission heats up and cools down, a tiny amount of moisture gets pulled into that fluid. Over time, that moisture breaks down the friction modifier additives that keep the clutch engaging smoothly. Without those additives, the clutch starts grabbing and releasing thousands of times per second instead of holding steady. That is the shudder you feel, that rapid vibration through the seat, the floorboard, sometimes the steering wheel. It is not your engine. It is not your drive shaft. It is the clutch inside your torque converter slipping and grabbing at 23 to 28 cycles per second. If your truck has active fuel management, the cylinder deactivation system that shuts down 4 cylinders to save gas, the problem compounds even faster. Every time your engine switches from 8 cylinders to 4 and back again, it creates a torque pulse that hits the transmission while the converter clutch is partially engaged. It is like tapping a brake pad that is already on the edge of grabbing. Active fuel management accelerates the clutch wear dramatically. Owners who disable active fuel management with aftermarket tuners report significantly less shudder and longer fluid life. One owner on the Silverado Sierra forum ran 130,000 miles with active fuel management, disabled, and experienced 0 shudder recurrence. That tells you everything about what cylinder deactivation is doing to your torque converter. You know what is wild about this? None of it happens overnight. Your transmission gives you weeks, sometimes months, of warning. The shudder starts light, barely noticeable. Most owners think it is a rough patch of road or a tire out of balance. Then it gets worse, more frequent, stronger. It starts showing up on every highway drive instead of once a week. By the time you take it to the dealer, the damage has been compounding with every mile you drove. The clutch material that has been shredding is now circulating through your fluid as microscopic debris, contaminating the valve body, scoring the pump, and clogging the filter. A problem that started in the torque converter is now spreading through the entire transmission. Now here's what should concern every GMC Sierra and Chevy Silverado owner listening to this right now. This is not a rare defect affecting a handful of trucks. GM has issued over 13 technical service bulletins related to this exact problem since 2015. 13. The very first one, PIP 5337, came out in October 2015, covering the 2015 and 2016 Silverados and Sierras, and flat out admitted that the condition may be caused by an internal torque converter issue. That bulletin was updated at least 10 times over the next 2 years. The big one, TSB 18NA355, landed in December 2018 and finally introduced the reformulated fluid that actually addresses the root cause. That was 4 years after the first trucks rolled off the assembly line with fluid GM already knew was failing. Every Sierra and Silverado with the 8L98 speed from 2015 through at least 2019 is affected. That means the 5.3-liter L83, the 6.2-liter L86, every cab configuration, every trim level. But it does not stop there. The 6L86 speed paired with the 4.3 V6 and many 5.3 V8 trucks from 2014 through 2020 have their own version of the same problem. And the 10-speed 10 L80 in the 2020 through 2025 trucks carries it forward. GM's own Bulletin 22 and ANA 182 was updated as recently as September 2025 to add the 2025 model year. We are talking about over 4 million trucks, SUVs, Tahoes, Suburbans, Yukon, Escalades, all with the same fundamental vulnerability. So here is what this means for your truck. You are driving to work 65 or 70 miles per hour, light throttle. Your transmission is in top gear, your torque converter clutch is engaged in controlled slip, and every single second that clutch is wearing down a little more. The fluid that is supposed to protect it has been absorbing moisture for 20,000 miles, 40,000 miles, 60,000 miles. The friction modifiers are depleted, the clutch is starting to grab. And this happens every single drive, every single day. Here's the part that makes me angry. General Motors' original maintenance schedule for this transmission called for no fluid change under normal driving conditions. Let me say that again. No fluid change for a fluid that degrades through moisture absorption during normal use. Mechanics who rebuild these transmissions call that recommendation negligent. The fluid was failing. General Motors knew the fluid was failing. And their official position was that you never needed to change it. A class action lawsuit covering over 800,000 vehicles is still making its way through federal court. Internal General Motors documents revealed during litigation showed the company considered but rejected extended warranty programs because of cost. They instructed dealers to tell customers that harsh shifting was characteristic of General Motors vehicles. Characteristic. That is the word they used. If you are still watching, you already know more than most General Motors truck owners will ever learn about what is happening inside their transmission. Subscribe now and share this video with anyone you know who drives a Silverado, Sierra, Tahoe, Yukon, or Escalade. What comes next is the part the dealerships never tell you. Here's the test. It costs you nothing. It takes about 30 seconds. And it can save you $4,000. Get your truck out on the highway. Find a stretch where you can cruise at 45 to 55 miles per hour with light throttle, steady speed, no hills. Wait for the shudder. If your truck has this problem, you will feel it, that rumble strip vibration through the seat and the floorboard. Now, while you are still holding the gas pedal steady with your right foot, lightly tap the brake pedal with your left foot. Just a tap. If the shudder immediately stops the instant you touch the brake, you have just confirmed torque converter clutch shudder. What you did was force the transmission to disengage the converter clutch. The moment that clutch released, the vibration disappeared. That tells you the shudder is not your tires, not your drive shaft, not your engine mounts. It is the torque converter clutch, exactly what the $8 fix I promised is designed to address. You can also confirm it another way. While the truck is shuddering, press the throttle harder. If the shudder disappears when you accelerate, that is another confirmation. The increased throttle forces the transmission to either fully lock the clutch or release it entirely, and in both cases, the controlled slip shudder zone disappears. Now pay attention to when it happens and how bad it is. A healthy truck should cruise at highway speed with zero vibration, smooth as glass. If the shudder is mild and happens occasionally, maybe once or twice during a 30-minute highway drive, usually when the engine is warm and you are holding steady throttle on flat ground, you caught it early. You have time. If it happens every time you hit 45 to 60 miles per hour and gets worse in warm weather, after towing, or when the engine drops into 4-cylinder mode, it is moderate. Get it addressed within the next 1,000 miles. Towing is a massive accelerant for this problem. Multiple owners trace their very first shudder episode to immediately after a towing trip because the extra load superheats the fluid and burns through the remaining friction modifiers. If your truck is shuddering constantly and you are also noticing harsh shifts, delayed engagement when you put it in drive, or dark brown fluid on the dipstick, that is severe. You are driving on borrowed time and every mile is making the repair more expensive. Let me show you something crazy. Everything I just told you, the fluid degradation, the clutch wear, the 23 to 28 Hz vibration frequency, the brake tap diagnostic, none of it is hidden. It is all in GM's own Technical Service Bulletins. They documented every bit of it. They told their dealers exactly how to test for it and exactly how to fix it. They just never told you. Now here's the $8 fix I mentioned at the beginning of this video. It is called a friction modifier additive, specifically Lubiguard Platinum Universal ATF Protectant, part number 63010. One bottle costs about $8. You pour it straight into your transmission through the dipstick tube. No tools, no jack, no drain pan. 5 minutes in your driveway. Here is what it does inside your transmission. The friction modifiers in your factory fluid have been depleted by moisture contamination. That is why the clutch grabs and releases instead of holding smooth. The Lubiguard additive replenishes those exact friction modifiers. It restores the consistent engagement properties that the clutch needs to operate in that controlled slip zone without shuddering. Transmission specialists who work on these trucks daily consider it the single most effective first-line treatment for early-stage torque converter shudder. But here's the critical detail. The additive works best as a supplement to fresh fluid, not a band-aid over 60,000-mile-old fluid that has turned dark and absorbed enough moisture to fill a shot glass. For lasting results, especially if your truck has been shuddering for more than a few weeks, you want to combine the additive with a transmission fluid exchange using the correct reformulated fluid. That fluid is Mobil 1 Synthetic LVATF-HP, the blue label version, GM part number 1, 9417577. Not standard Dexron 6, not the old black label formula. The blue label, a pan drop service where you drain the pan, replace the filter, refill with 7 to 10 quarts of blue label fluid, and add 2 bottles of Lubiguard Platinum, runs about $165 to $290 if you do it yourself. A full machine flush at the dealer using the Technical Service Bulletin procedure and 20 quarts costs $400 to $1,000. Either way, compare that to the alternative. A torque converter replacement runs $1,900 to $3,200. A full transmission rebuild runs $5,000 to $9,500. $8 in additive and $200 in fluid, or $5,000 in parts and labor. The math is not complicated. The industry just prefers you never do it. One more thing that makes a massive difference. Your transmission has a thermal bypass valve that controls fluid temperature. The original valve opens at 194 degrees Fahrenheit. That is too hot. General Motors released an updated valve that opens at 158 degrees Fahrenheit, part number 86774-933. Owners who have installed the updated valve report. Fluid temperatures dropping by 30 to 50 degrees. Cooler fluid lasts longer. maintains its friction modifiers longer, and puts less heat stress on the torque converter clutch. The valve costs about $60 to $90 and is a one-time swap. If you are already dropping the transmission pan for a fluid change, adding this valve takes an extra 10 minutes of work. Stay with me on this next part. I know I have been throwing a lot at you, but this is where it all comes together into something you can actually do this weekend. If your truck has zero shudder right now, do not wait. Change the fluid at 50,000 miles or sooner if you tow. Use the Blue Label Mobil 1 Synthetic LVA TFHP. Add 2 bottles of Lubigard Platinum. Swap in the updated 158-degree thermal bypass valve. Then change the fluid every 30,000 miles going forward. That is the rule that keeps Sierras and Silverados running past 300,000 miles. If your truck is shuddering mildly and you caught it early, start with 2 bottles of Lubigard Platinum additive poured in through the dipstick tube. Drive 500 miles. If the shudder improves significantly, schedule a full fluid exchange with Blue Label fluid within the next month. Add the thermal bypass valve during that service. If the additive alone does not improve the shudder after 500 miles, go straight to the full fluid exchange. If your truck is shuddering hard and has been for months, a fluid exchange may still resolve it, but there is a chance the clutch lining is too glazed or delaminated for fresh fluid to restore. In that case, you are looking at a torque converter replacement. If you go that route, do not let anyone put another stock converter in your truck. Aftermarket billet converters with upgraded friction material that is 2 to 3 times thicker than the factory lining are the only permanent solution. And here's the pro tip. If you are already pulling the transmission for a converter replacement, have your shop replace the transmission filter, the thermal bypass valve, and flush the cooler lines at the same time. The labor overlaps completely. You will save yourself $400 to $600 by combining it into one job instead of 2. Your GMC Sierra was built to last 300,000 miles. The transmission is not the problem. The missing maintenance was the problem. General Motors designed a transmission that needed fluid changes every 30,000 miles, and then told you the fluid was good for life. Now you know the truth. An $8 bottle of friction modifier and a $200 fluid change stand between you and a $4,000 repair bill. That is it. That is the entire secret General Motors spent a decade burying under 13 Technical Service Bulletins, while telling owners the shudder was normal and the fluid never needed changing. If this video saved you from a repair bill you did not see coming, subscribe to We Are Auto Nerds. We publish real mechanical knowledge every single week. Share this with every Silverado and Sierra owner you know. Because an $8 fix takes 5 minutes, but the knowledge behind it took General Motors 10 years to stop hiding. I will see you in the next one.